Imagine you've spent decades in exile, dreaming of a triumphant homecoming. When you finally return to Jerusalem, you'll find rubble, famine, and hostile neighbors, the glorious restoration the prophets promised, nowhere in sight, no Davidic king, no divine glory filling a temple, just poverty and an unfinished ruin. This disappointment is the crisis two prophets had to solve. To address this crisis, two prophets stepped forward, Haggai and Zechariah. The year is roughly 520 BCE. The Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem's temple in 586. The Persian Emperor Cyrus allowed Jews to return around 538, but nearly 2 decades later, the temple still lies in ruins. A Davidic descendant named Zerubbabel serves as governor. Under Persian authority, not as an independent king, Haggai delivers a blunt message. Your crop failures, your drought, your economic misery, these aren't random. God is withholding blessing because you've left the temple in ruins. Rebuild it and divine favor returns. This cause and effect theology is simple and direct, and it works. The people resume construction. But Haggai's vision extends far beyond bricks and mortar. He sees this modest rebuilt temple as a placeholder, soon to be filled with the wealth of nations. He identifies Zerubbabel as God's chosen one, a potential Messiah. Messiah means anointed one, originally a king ritually anointed with oil. Zechariah, prophesying at the same time, shares Haggai's goals but expands them dramatically. In chapters 1 through 6, he receives 8 elaborate symbolic night visions. Here's what's significant. God doesn't speak to Zechariah directly. An angel serves as intermediary, interpreting the visions, relaying their meaning. This is a new mode of revelation. In classical prophets like Amos and Isaiah heard God's word directly. Zechariah receives coded imagery that requires angelic decoding, and this shift matters. It plants the seeds for what will become apocalyptic literature, a genre of revelatory writing featuring symbolic visions, angelic mediators, and end-time scenarios. Zechariah's boldest political vision appears in chapter 4. He sees a golden lampstand flanked by 2 olive trees, representing Zerubbabel the governor and Joshua the high priest. A diarchy, joint rule by 2 leaders. Zerubbabel holds royal and political authority as a Davidic descendant. Joshua holds priestly and religious authority as high priest. Together they govern God's people, one lamp fed by 2 sources of oil. This is a creative theological solution. A Davidic heir exists, but Persia won't allow a full king, so split the power. Then something happened that nobody planned for. The Persians removed Zerubbabel. Messianic fervor around the Davidic descendant looked like a political threat, and Persia eliminated it. The diarchy collapsed. Here's where the story gets remarkable. Zechariah chapter 6 originally described a coronation. A crown placed on Zerubbabel's head with branch of Jesse language. Jesse was David's father. This is unmistakably royal Davidic vocabulary. After Zerubbabel's removal, the text was edited. The crown now rests on Joshua the high priest. The branch title, once pointing to a king, now applies to a priest. He shall build the temple of the Lord is said of a priestly figure, not a royal one. This isn't just a textual fix. It inaugurates a new pattern. For the next several centuries, the high priest, not a king, serves as supreme authority in Judah. Priestly leadership wasn't the original plan. It was a forced adaptation that became permanent doctrine. Zechariah's vision extends beyond Judah's borders. Chapter 8, verse 23 paints a striking image. 10 men from nations of every tongue will take hold of every Jew by a corner of his cloak and say, "Let us go with you, for we have heard that God is with you." This is not exclusivist nationalism. Zechariah envisions all nations streaming toward Jerusalem to worship Israel's God, a powerful universalist hope far beyond the politics of a small Persian province. Place Zechariah on a spectrum. On one end, classical prophets, Amos, Isaiah, Jeremiah, receiving God's word directly, delivering clear oracles about named historical situations. On the other end, full apocalyptic literature, Daniel, Revelation, with complex angelic hierarchies, coded symbolism, and cosmic timetables. Zechariah sits right in the middle. His angelic intermediaries and symbolic night visions are the bridge between these two worlds. Apocalyptic didn't appear from nowhere. Zechariah is the crucial waypoint. Haggai and Zechariah solved an immediate crisis. They motivated the temple's completion in 516 BCE, but they also reshaped Judaism's institutional DNA for centuries. The transfer of authority from king to priest wasn't a political accident that faded. It became theological doctrine, defining Second Temple Judaism until Rome destroyed the temple in 70 CE. Zechariah's prophetic innovations, angelic mediators, symbolic visions, universalist eschatology seeded ideas that would flower in apocalyptic literature and profoundly shape both Judaism and Christianity. Sometimes the most consequential changes in a religious tradition come not from grand plans, but from how communities adapt when their deepest hopes are disappointed.